My name is Erin Weideman, and you are listening to Heroes for Her. This series features candid conversations with real women who strive to balance their professional acumen with their personal values. Join me as I interview positive female role models who are working hard, loving others, and inspiring the next generation of girls to serve their unique purpose. Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Heroes for Her. No guest again this week. I am so excited and kind of enjoying this new format. We, 2 weeks ago, or I guess a month ago now, had the first episode ever where I didn't interview anybody and it was just me. And I talked a little bit about a fun and intentional Christmas tradition that we started here at the Weideman household called the Santa Switch. And I am super excited to be back this week. Again, no interview, with some updates on the Santa Switch and to talk a little bit about Christmas traditions as we head into the Christmas season, because Christmas is less than 2 weeks away and I know we're excited about it. So I'm excited to be with you to share. I'm on IGTV today and also sharing up on the blog. So if you haven't already seen, well, I'm going to be referencing the original Santa Switch announcement that we did about a month ago. So if you have not yet watched that episode, I would encourage you to do that right now because it kind of breaks down just a really fun and interesting way that our family is tackling and approaching Christmas this year in the spirit of generosity and gift giving, not necessarily getting and being so obsessed with getting gifts and receiving gifts, but what can we do as a family to think about flipping the focus a little bit from what can I get to what can I give? So this was really born out of an article that I wrote for World Vision way back in the summertime. And like I said, if you watch that earlier episode, it'll kind of break down everything that I talked about when we introduced and kicked this thing off right after Thanksgiving. But for those of you, just a quick recap, basically what we've decided to do is we've decided to, instead of focusing on the things we can get this holiday season, we just wanted to, as a family, sort of switch things around and say, okay, we're going to take the word Santa, we're going to call it a Santa Switch. We're going to see a need and take action. And what that looks like for us at the Weideman household is simply going, when we leave our house or when we get up in the morning, we're trying to pray and steady ourselves around noticing the needs that people have when we leave the house. So if we go to school or if we go to work or if we're running errands or, we're out and just going through our day-to-day lives, who are the people that we notice need something, and then trying to do things that would meet those needs. So I'm excited to get into sharing some updates because what you guys have done, which was so awesome, is you sent me in, a lot of you emailed me and direct messaged me on Instagram to send in your own Santa Switch stories. And I want to highlight a few of those today for people who are wondering, like, how do I get involved? And, I haven't started yet. There's still so much time. There's 2 weeks till Christmas. So it's plenty of time right now to decide as a family, okay, what are we going to do to bless other people? What are we going to do to see the people who are hurting, who are maybe in need out in our community, in our neighborhood, in all of the places that we go, and, even causes and things that exist out in the world, that stretch so far beyond the walls of our homes and the borders of our communities. We can really be thinking at Christmas time about blessing people across miles and the people that are very close to us. So this is just really where it was born. So we're doing a Santa Switch this year, and I'm inviting you guys to do it officially. We kicked it off a month ago, but I wanted to share, just to kind of steady our time together today for today's episode, since I'm not interviewing anybody, to talk a little bit about Christmas traditions, because what we've decided at our house is we're going to adopt this tradition in the form of a journal. So this journal is just going to live with our Christmas decorations when we pack them up, and then every year we're going to pull it back down when we decorate, and it's going to be a way for us to remember the previous years when we decided to look out into the world and notice those needs, and then take action as a family. And now we've got all of these neat stories around ways that we've helped people, which is really, just cool as a family. And in thinking about, being an intentional mom and wanting to train up kids to notice when someone's in need. It's really been cool to be on the lookout for people together as a family, and to hear stories of like Brent coming home or Rooney getting done with school and coming back home and saying, oh my gosh, Mom, I did a Santa Switch today at school. Or when Daddy and I were at, the store, we did a Santa Switch with somebody. So it's just been really cool, and it's touched my heart. And so I hope it blesses you guys. But I wanted to start off today's episode by talking about this idea of traditions. And I gave a talk last week at a church here in San Diego, and the title of the talk is Miracles, but I spend a lot of time in the beginning of that talk kind of
just breaking down some of the family traditions that we have that, you've grown up and you've done every year. And some of them don't necessarily make a lot of sense, right? But they've been part of your traditions every year. And for whatever reason, they continue on. And every year Christmas was the same. At least it was in my house. Like we always had, the same dinner. We would have the same Christmas Eve party at my grandma's house where we'd all have to wear red. And if you remember the last episode, I wore that red sweater. Like that party's coming up. I'm going to have to do it again. And you do these Christmas traditions, and some of them are so lovely and some of them are not so lovely, and it just becomes part of what your family does, and I think it's so cool. But as I gave that talk last week, I kind of weave people through like some of the traditions I had as a young person, like when I was just a daughter or a member of like my core family before I got married, before I have kids, and then as you grow up through your life, like your roles totally change. And what I enjoy about Christmas is that you can decide as a mom, like you really get to own the culture and the ambiance and the Christmas situation of your own household, and you sort of steer the ship in terms of Christmas traditions and deciding which ones kind of come along with you that you pull into your new family, and then which ones you kind of want to ball up and throw in the trash can because they just either don't make sense or kind of put you off for whatever reason. So I thought I would just share two of our Weideman family Christmas traditions, one of which I love so much and the other one I just can't stand. But this is what happens when you like merge your households with someone and like, you have to decide together like how Christmas is going to go. But as a mom, secretly, I'm trying to just like, make all the decisions on that front, from like decorating the house and making it look nice and all of the things we want to do. Anyway, so the first tradition I want to bring up, and I'm just going to apologize in advance for the people that are listening on the podcast. When you go to YouTube, you can access this episode and you'll be able to see all of the things I'm showing on video right now. And trust me, you do not want to miss it, because the first Weideman family Christmas tradition is this. And I am so excited that I get to show everybody this right now. So this is a portrait of my darling husband let me back up. So before my husband dated and married me, he was dating a girl who I love, and he owned a dog with this girl. Her name's Tori, and this dog's, as you can see, it's a very rugged and manly dog. He's a 5-pound teacup Pomeranian named Winston Featherbottom. And what my husband did the year we were dating, so the year before we got married, my husband decided he would take this dog and dress him in a beautiful sweater. And then, Brent grew out a mustache, and for those of you enjoying that on video, it's so disgusting. He grew it for 2 months. So he'll do this and try to put me off for about a month, but once it gets into month number 2, he really hits a level of like scary that goes from funny to could you please shave immediately. So he grows this caterpillar like mustache across his face, and he puts on my mom's old Christmas sweater. She has this disgusting ugly Christmas sweater that has like geeses walking across the middle with like bows tied around their neck, and there's 2 cardinals up here, and there's like kind of like vines, and down at the bottom there's toy soldiers, and it doesn't light up, but it should, because this thing is like world renowned. It's probably it's been passed between lots of different family members before we got married, and it has probably won maybe 20 or 25 ugly Christmas sweater contests. So it truly is like, the one that really sets you apart in terms of if you're trying to win one of those contests. But so what my husband did was he took this photo at Sears Portrait Studio. He took Winston, put on my mom's Christmas sweater, and he took the dog to Sears Portrait Studio and took like professional photos for Christmas with Winston, with like a snowy backdrop. There's like a wintry wonderland happening behind him, and there's pictures of him and Winston on a sled, and they're pretending to ride the sled, and it's so incredibly funny. But guys, what happens every year at my house for Christmas is that we take this portrait out of all the Christmas decorations, and then we decide as a family where we're going to put it in our house so that we can scare everybody who comes over. And it's so incredibly funny. And it's something that I look forward to every single Christmas because it just makes Christmas fun and goofy. And it's an instant conversation starter because it's so horrifying for people to look at. They don't really know what to make of it. And I just love it so much. The second tradition that we have in our house that is one I'm not a huge fan of is, well, again, for the people that are watching online, like please make sure you're accessing this video to take a look at this, the most disgusting Christmas ornament that is ever in existence. And I just want to preface this by saying, like, no one's a bigger Baltimore Ravens fan than me. I married into the Baltimore Ravens football family because my husband's from Maryland and he loves the Ravens. And, you know, when we were dating, we would watch games together. And I really got on the, on the team, and I'm excited about it. And I love cheering for them. But there's a really big gap between my fandom and this ornament. So let me just show you as a close-up for the people who are looking. Here it is, and here it is again for those guys. Someone has taken the body, like the crusty old body of an actual crab, and ripped its legs off, and the main body, they have pumped Kraft frosting across the front of it in this disgusting beard. And then I don't know what this is, if it's like decoupage or ceramic or whatever, but basically what they've done is they've created a nose, like with actual nostrils, if you can see those. And some lips on here, which when you see this thing close up, it's really just takes it to a whole different level of gross. And then they painted, I'm going to lift its hat up, because they painted like a dead stare on the front of it. And it's supposed to be Santa Claus, clearly, because he's wearing a Santa-style hat, and it's got the Ravens logo on it and some feathers like wisping across the front of his eyebrows. But you guys, like Brent, this is Brent's favorite ornament, okay? And he insists every single year that it go right in the middle of our Christmas tree in the living room. And there really are no words except, like, I can't explain to you how much I dislike this ornament, mostly because people really don't know what to make of it when they come over. And as moms, like, we really like to own the artistic quality and, I don't know, the reverence of the Christmas tree that people come across in our own home. It's very exciting to be able to, like, doll your tree up and maybe make the ornaments match, or have everything look pretty with a star on the top, or whatever your preference is. So I know there are moms out there who are listening who are equally as horrified as I am that this sweet little special guy, it's like mandated. And my husband gets really mad because what I'll try to do is I'll put it in the middle of the tree right when we get the tree up. And then as the Christmas season, like as the days go by during Christmas, I just kind of secretly move it, like passive aggressively, like move it around the tree so that it ends up toward the back, like off to the side, and then eventually toward the back. And it takes him a little while to notice. And then we'll play this game where I'll come home and then it's back where in its spot where it's supposed to go. And it's just a nightmare. So I wanted to just share this with you. Because what's the point? Like, Christmas traditions, some of them are awesome, some of them are not so great, but that's what makes them, fun to do. And you get to do it as a family. And now we just make fun of this thing every year, this ornament. But we love putting, that weird picture out. I'm going to show it to you again just before I close this section of the podcast content, to just give you an idea of, like, if you're not excited about making your own Christmas traditions with your family and, like, coming together as a group of people and going, okay, what do we want Christmas to look like, feel like, what kinds of, anything from, like, the decorations to the activities that you do, to the food and the baking and the cooking that you do. And all of those things I mentioned last time, like, these are the things that we get to decide as a family what make Christmas fun and special for us. And that's why I think, I love Christmas and I love everything about it, and the things that you can see out in your neighborhood, and from the lights to everybody's decorations, especially the food, because it's so nostalgic of times when you were younger. There are so many things that we experience at Christmas time that we want to, again, continue on for our own families. And my hope and prayer is that, we want to do that. We prioritize those things. But if we're really being intentional parents, my hope and prayer is that we would also set aside time and, to create moments for us to consider and care about other people, because that is ultimately what Christmas is about. It's not necessarily, just making things fun and interesting and exciting for our own families. It's really about reflecting the heart of God, making sure we're using this time to witness to people, to tell people about Jesus, and to reflect him in our behavior and in our generosity to the people we come across. So that is really where the Santa switch came from. Like I said, it's just simply taking the name Santa and calling it See a Need, Take Action. And for us, we grabbed a journal, and we've just been logging over the last couple of weeks, like, moments that we've encountered in our day during our week, when somebody either needed help or needed something, and then we stepped in to meet that need. So I want to kick off this sort of segment, and as I continue on, we're going to wrap up here in a few minutes, but I wanted to just take the time to share some of these stories that came in, because like the goal is not to just do this in our house and just have it be a blessing to the people that we know. I mean, if we're talking about creating a movement, being intentional, helping girls understand their true worth and that God created them not just to be served, but to serve other people, to serve the people they come across, then we've got to be intentional as moms to give them opportunities to notice the needs of others and then come alongside and empower them to meet those needs. So as I was thinking about writing the blog for this week and updating you guys on everything that's happened since we started this Santa switch, Rooney and I, just a quick story. So Rooney and I a couple days ago went to HomeGoods because we needed some Christmas placemats. I usually swap out the placemats depending on what time of year we're in. And for whatever reason, I can't find my other ones. So we're in HomeGoods, and it took this sweet little girl, I love her, all but 5 seconds. So she and I walked through the front doors and we're like, yes, Christmas placemats, like where are these located? And it took 5 seconds, you guys, for her to totally abandon what we were there to do. And she just jetted down an aisle and found her way to the toy aisles that were overflowing with stuff. And if you've ever walked into HomeGoods, like I love HomeGoods. I'm a HomeGoods TJ Maxx girl forever. But we walked through, and I couldn't even walk up the aisle without kicking toys and games. And I mean, there was just stuff everywhere. So she's walking, very purposely up and down each aisle, and she's pointing to all these toys and games. And, oh, mama, look at this. And, oh, this baby. And, oh, look at that stroller for my baby. And the dolls. And, oh, these little figurines and the LOL. And all the things that she saw they were dazzling her. And she started to explain to me how all of these items were going to go on her Christmas list. And I stopped there in the middle of the store and I went, okay, hold on a second. Because, I mean, in our house, we haven't really decided what to do about the whole Santa thing in general. Like last year, she asked me about, Santa, because we went and saw Santa. And then all the presents that came, like I just attributed the present that she got to the actual person who bought the present for her. So she asked me if Santa, did Santa bring these gifts? And I just kind of matter-of-factly, because I'm doing this for the first time, like, parenting is just kind of flying by the seat sometimes. I told her the truth. I just said, this person who loves you purchased this gift for you. We write our thank you notes, and it sort of happens the way a birthday does. Like someone came alongside to appreciate you and to get you something for Christmas. And we want to honor that person. We want to thank them. We want to appreciate them. So we have to attribute those gifts and where they come from to the actual person when they give us something. So like I said, we don't really have a clear-cut approach to the whole Santa business, but we definitely have not ever discussed like writing out a whole list of, items that you want for your own self. Like I have never sat her down to do that. I did that as a kid, I think, but I don't know. I'm sort of erring on the side of like, we're not going to lend any time to that or any weight to taking the time to get a piece of paper and make an entire list of things that we really think are special for our own self and the things that we really want to play with, to have inside our house. And it got me thinking because, and I'm talking to all the moms out there, like if we are battling cultural norms daily, and we are, ladies, we're battling things like selfishness versus service. What we need to start thinking about is being intentional about flipping the focus, not just at Christmas, but this is a beautiful time to start a tradition like this, because we can not only be intentional, but actually shift things around in our house to create less focus on the things that we're getting and more focus on the things that we're giving. So we have had a blast doing the Santa switch this year. Like I can't even tell you guys how uplifting it's been to not only do this ourselves as our family, but to hear some of the stories that have come in. And for those of you that heard the original episode, so I shared the first entry of our journal in that episode where we were at the grocery store and we saw a homeless man, and Rooney and I instantly okay, we can do something. And we went shopping for him, and then we had to kind of find him after we left the store. So I shared that whole story because it's the first entry in our Santa Switch journal. And I wanted to just take a little time right now and offer up a couple more ideas. Like if you're out there and you're going, yes, I want to be intentional this Christmas. I want to shift the focus in my own home. We do want to figure out ways, really simple ways to practice radical generosity, where we're looking out, we're noticing needs, we're doing something about it as a family. It's so exciting. I want to share 3 quick stories with you that came in from people who submitted this week, just to get your creative juices flowing. If you're going, I'm not really sure what to do. Does everything have to be big? It doesn't. I mean, it's so simple as saying a quick prayer and going, okay, Lord, who are the people that we're praying for this person? God, keep me like ready and aware. Help me be, present in my situation when I leave my home. Is there someone you want me to help? And praying for those people and waiting with anticipation and with the trust that God is going to bring you those people. And He does. And it's so cool. So I want to just read a couple of the stories that came into you to get those ideas flowing. If you're going, yes, we want to start this, or we need some more ideas, or we're looking out and trying to figure out what to do. These things can come very naturally. It doesn't have to be so crafted and orchestrated. Like I know you're like my mom brain does that too, where it has to be like totally dialed in and everything figured out ahead of time. It doesn't. You can leave your house and just wing it. So here's the first entry that came in from somebody, and it was way back on November 11th. So it was Veterans Day. And so I'm just going to read it to you. It says, we were sitting at church together as a family, and we were watching a video that paid tribute to men and women in our military because it was Veterans Day. And our pastor asked all the veterans to raise their hands so we could honor them as a church family. And my husband elbowed me, and he said, I want to ask the people who just raised their hands in front of us if we can take them to lunch. And I was like, immediately, and I love this story. This woman was like, well, we had so many things to do after church, and we had planned to go shopping. We had planned to bake. We had planned to do all these things. But her husband nudged her and said, like, God's moving in my spirit right now. We need to take these people out to lunch. So after church let out, they approached this couple and a friend who was with them, who had all raised their hands and said, yes, we were in the military, or we're a military family. And they got their attention. They said, hey, would you like to go out to lunch? We'd love to take you to lunch. And so they said yes. So they drove and met these 3 people with their whole family to a restaurant down the street, and they spent just the next half hour. They bought their lunch and they sat there and they just chatted over hamburgers. And they met one of the young men. His name was Jimmy. He was from Indiana, and he lives with his wife Allie just a little bit south of where the church was. Their friend Tony had just moved to San Diego from Detroit. He'd only been in town for like 2 days, and she says it was great getting to know that they hadn't been attending our church for that long. And it was really cool to spend a little time with some people who, and that was maybe like their first or second experience even going to their church. And they got to find out about who these people were, hear more about their time in the military and what life experiences that they had, and it blessed their kids so much. And they also got to figure out how to order things off the secret menu because they went to In-N-Out. So all of these neat little fun blessings and add-ons that God delivered through just their obedience to say, okay, we're at church. I see somebody, they raise their hand. Okay, I feel like God nudging me. I'm noticing, everyone's got to eat, right? It's so cool to relay that story and just say, like, yes, like everyone needs lunch. We're going to meet. We're going to have fellowship. We're going to, be a witness to somebody who's just moved to town, who is experiencing their church for the first time. So I love that story so much. The second story that I want to share is back from November 26th. And this person was walking down the street in New York City, and she was with her husband. It was a mom. They were alone. All their kids were being watched by grandma and grandpa, and they were walking down the street trying to decide, I don't know if they were on a vacation or not, where they should eat lunch. And they noticed there was a mom standing on the sidewalk, and she was holding her infant son. And it was really cold and windy. They were in New York, and the baby didn't have a hat. And her husband was holding a hat. And she looked at it, and before she could even say anything, her husband walked over to the woman and gave her the hat for her baby. It's such a simple story, and I love the little stories that are coming in like that, you guys. It doesn't have to be this huge, like, I got to do this big thing for God, or this totally, financially generous gift. And it can be that, but, such a simple thing of noticing, on a cold and windy day, that a mom was dressed appropriately, and then she was holding herself for whatever reason. That baby had like something snuggly on, but his head was cold and there was nothing covering it. And having the not even discernment, having just the capacity to, be present and available for when God twinges your heart for something, or when God nudges you to notice something, and just stepping in obedience and just giving a hat away. Like this hat. I mean, how many of us have more than one hat that just live in our closets? It was just so cool to hear that story about he was like, oh, I literally have a hat in my hand. I don't need this. I have one, I have it at home, or I don't, and I can give it to this baby right now. It's so cool. Last story. So this one comes just back from last week, right after Thanksgiving. So November 28th, this couple was driving with their daughter to Home Depot to get their Christmas tree. And on the opposite side of the street, going the other direction of their car, there was an ambulance passing them with its lights flashing and its sirens going off. And after a few moments, like nobody said anything, but everybody saw the ambulance. After a few moments, their daughter, totally unprompted, said, hey, we need to pray for those people, whoever's that ambulance is going to help. We need to pray for, that family or whoever was involved if there was an accident. And they stopped right there and they prayed in the car, and they just simply said a quick prayer and just lifted up the family to the Lord and said, God, would you be with the ambulance workers that are driving to help whatever family, whatever person that is in need right now? We pray for safety. We pray for healing, for protection, for anybody involved. If it was an accident, if there's something going on, God, would you be with that family or that person, whoever's in need of your help, your healing, your whatever covering they need right now, or whatever way they need you to intercede. They just prayed for that as a family, like on the way to get their Christmas tree. It's so cool. So guys, I share these stories with you, and I'm going to have a couple of more updates of our family's Christmas stories and Santa Switch and all the things that we've been doing. We have 5 entries so far, and it's not a competition. It's like whatever God stirs your heart for, but I'll be sharing those coming up in different little snippets online and on social, so you can look out for those. But it is not too late to join the Santa Switch party. Like, get on this train and ride the train of radical generosity and coming alongside people this Christmas to help those in need. It has been such a fun and intentional tradition to start this with our own family. I know we're going to continue it on. And literally, it's so easy to do. All you need is a journal, something to write with, and a heart willing and committed to saying, yes, Lord, we are going to pray before we leave our home. We are going to be on the lookout for people who need our help, and we're going to step in and do something about it when we see it. So I want to invite you guys, keep it really simple. I would love to hear from you. If you have a Santa Switch story that you want to share, I would love to highlight you on our feed. We really want to shift the focus as a community of moms who are supporting their daughters, but more importantly, to strengthen families this holiday season. Like, this is something so easy you can do, to just ask the Lord where he wants you to lead your family, and be on the lookout for people to bless, to notice those needs, and to do something to take action. So guys, I'm so excited to invite you to do this. We have 2 weeks until Christmas. There's so much time to be able to see a need, take action, to do a Santa Switch on your own. So I'm just inviting you to do that right now. And bless you guys. I hope this holiday season for you, and this is our last podcast of the year, I hope this holiday season brings with it so many things for your families. I mean, I've prayed a lot. I think the word peace has been on my heart even just the last 6 months. Over the summer, it was the word wisdom. And then, as God kind of revealed things around that word to me, the last 6 months for me has really been about maintaining peace. And that's just what I pray over everybody listening to this podcast, that you would experience God's peace this holiday season, that you would, just live renewed and refreshed in what we have as saved by Jesus. I mean, he's come alongside each and every one of us, and he's offered this free gift of salvation. God's grace is incredible. And I just pray that we would feel at peace this holiday season, and then in the same breath, like, allow that peace to activate us to figure out what God wants us to do. And not really about setting, New Year's resolutions, but just figuring out today what God is stirring your heart for, and how he wants to ignite you to build his kingdom in whatever that looks like in your own life. I mean, that's what we live and die for over here, and not just at our own house, but just as a company, that we could embolden a generation of women and moms to come alongside girls to really change things and shift hearts and shift identities, so that we are so that not just that we're stepping into our unique leadership roles in God's kingdom, but we're bringing people along with us. I already feel like God's stirring my heart for a new word coming in 2019, and that word is influence. So I just wanted to wrap up today's episode by encouraging you guys, put yourselves in moments this holiday season where you can feel and experience God's peace, but then get ready because God has work for us to do. And I'm just excited to hear the stories, not just about Santa Switch, but about how God wants to use you this holiday season. So God bless you guys. I love you so much.